The Monster of Canterlot, Chapter 13. This was it. The big day. The day would finally be revealed to my little ponies, as Celestia is so fond of saying. I was very, very excited, and also so very scared. I couldn't help but wonder, what if Celestia was right all along? What would I do if there was panic? Would they accept me? Would they be willing to have a non-pony be their prince? If they decided to attack, would I survive? All these questions and concerns kept me up for much of the night, even with Luna's attempts to help calm my dreams. I'll give her credit for her attempt, too. It takes a lot of magic to have any effect on me in a normal incident. Dreamwalking in my head nearly exhausted her magic reserves. It was just one more reason why I loved my family. They made it very clear that they loved me. Maybe Equestria would, too. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, watching the sunrise, when my door opened and in walked two mares in maid uniforms. Both were surprised to see me up already. "Chris, you're awake already?" Bunny asked. "Hey, yeah, had trouble sleeping, even with Aunt Luna's help." "Your nerves bothering you, dear?" Rarity walked up and placed a hoof on my shoulder. "Yeah, it's silly, I know. I've wanted to be able to walk out that gate without an escort or disguise for over a decade. Now that the time is here, I'm worried about how the populace will react. I mean, with the exception of Mom and Fancy Pants, every pony who's met me has responded with fear and occasionally anger. How will several hundred ponies react? I want to say everything will be fine, but no pony can say that with any certainty. What I will tell you, though, is that no matter what any pony else says, you have others that love you and want you here. I don't think Iron and I would have made it without you, and we probably wouldn't even have Cotton now if it weren't for your help." Bunny hopped onto the bed next to me. I smiled a little. "Thanks, Bunny. That means a lot to me." I reached an arm around her withers and hugged her tight. "Rarity, in light of today's events, I hereby release you and your friends from your sentence. You are free to go, or stay, or whatever you want. However, I would consider it a favor if you all stayed, for moral support." "Wow, you really all would if you want Pinkie Pie's help," Rarity snarked. "But if it will make you feel better, then I shall be there, even if for no other reason than to ensure the suit Fancy Pants and I made for you remains undamaged. Speaking of which, I brought it with me for you to try on, and allow for any last-minute alterations." "Excellent!" "Indeed it is, but I won't let you put on this beautiful new suit while you're all sweaty. Now, get cleaned up while I bring it in for you." "Alright, thank you, Rarity." I showered, shaved, and brushed my teeth. When I came back out of the washroom, Rarity had shed her maid uniform and set up my new suit on a rolling clothes rack. It looked amazing. A three-piece suit with a classic black jacket and matching pants, with a blue stripe down the outside, silver and blue vest. White shirt and royal blue tie with Celestia's and Luna's cutie marks in a checkered pattern. "Wow, Rarity, it's amazing! You and Fancy Pants do work well together." "Thank you, darling, but you still have to try it on before we can call it a success." "Fair enough, but may I please have some privacy?" "But I need to make sure it fits properly. I don't really see the nets." "Yes, Your Highness," Bunny said as she magically grasped Rarity's tail and dragged her out of the room, shutting the door behind them. "Well, that was quite rude." "I know, and I'm sorry, but there is a reason he asked for privacy." "Oh?" "You see, his anatomy is a little more exposed than ours, and believe me, that was one awkward morning that I don't wish to repeat." "Oh, I see. I certainly hope you don't," I teased when I opened the door. "That would mean you messed up the design quite a bit. In fact, no mistakes were made anywhere on the suit. It fit perfectly. I only hoped the press conference would go as well." "My little ponies!" It always amazed me that Celestia could make the Royal Canterlot voice seem motherly and reassuring. When Luna used it, she sounded terrifying. She continued, "I thank you all for coming here today on such short notice." It was noon, and I was sweating like mad off stage. Celestia was at a lectern in the center of the stage, set up just outside the main entrance of the castle. Luna, Cadence, Shining, and Twilight were all seated behind her on cushions. Waiting with me was the 5 mares who, until recently, were imprisoned in the palace, thus Bunny and her family, and Blueblood. During breakfast, they had all been there and offered their support. Blueblood was just silent, which was good enough for me. "I'm sure you are all wondering just why I called you for this press conference, but let me assure you it is for a good cause." There was some murmuring and the snapping of many pictures amongst the gathered crowd as ponies wondered, theorized, and gossiped. When the chatter died down, Celestia addressed them again. "I have called you all here because I have most wondrous news for you all. I have been blessed with a son." The courtyard erupted in cheers and rahs. It was very lifting and heartwarming. The citizens really did love her, and as one of the ones who loved her most, I was very happy to finally see with my own eyes. Thank you all so much. I could just make out a single tear rolling down her cheek. He has brought me much pride and happiness, and I hope you all will accept and come to love him as every pony on this stage with me has. More cheering came from the crowd. Though I must confess something to you all, I have been hiding him from the world. Absolute silence fell. I have hidden him, not because I was embarrassed or ashamed, but because I was scared. You see, my little ponies, he is not a pony. In fact, he is not of any species known to Equestria. Now that got them all talking. He is, in fact, of a species known as human, and is the only one of his kind here. So, please, welcome into your hearts and minds. She turned and looked directly at me and smiled, which I took as my cue. So, without further ado, here he is, my son, Prince Christopher Soul. I took a deep breath and looked around at the ponies around me. They were all looking up at me and smiling, even Blue Blood, which in hindsight I should have been concerned about. I stepped out from behind the curtains and tried to ignore the shocked gasps of over 100 ponies at once. I put on my best smile and walked forward. So far, things were going okay. The ponies were stunned, clearly, but no pony was panicking or screaming. Well, they weren't at first. As I was walking out on stage, a wrinkle suddenly appeared in the carpet, as if by magic. I tripped over the wrinkle and stumbled with my hands out to catch me. Unfortunately, this made it look like I was attacking the ponies in the crowd. I caught my stumble, but the damage had been done. Mares and stallions near the stage were cringing and shaking. Then, some ponies screamed out, "That monster's going to eat us all!" And all Tartarus broke loose. Mothers scooped up their foals, stallions stood between me and their families. Ponies of all types were galloping around and trying to reach the exits. Guards were doing what they could to keep any pony from being hurt or trampled. It was as if my nightmare had just come true. I felt the energy leave my body. My legs gave out and I collapsed to my knees, my world crumbling around me. Then, on the edge of my horror, I heard hooves approaching on either side of me. A lot of hooves. All 4 princesses were standing beside me, Luna and Celestia on the inside. I felt a familiar wing wrap around my shoulders. I looked up to see Celestia, and she was pissed. Her horn, as well as all the other alicorns, were glowing furiously. As if with one voice, all 4 of them yelled, "Stop!" An immobilizing spell was cast over the entire crowd, guards included. Celestia walked to the front of the stage. "Shame! Shame on you all! I come to you with wondrous news and share my son with you, and you all treat him as a monster! This conference is over! Go home to your family so I may return to mine!" The spell was released, and a wave of relieved sighs went out amongst the gathered ponies. Celestia stood beside me and allowed me to pull myself up by her withers. We all turned to go back inside, and I was struggling to fight back the tears. "What is wrong with all of you?" Rarity's voice called from behind me. "So he's not a pony. So what? The prince is a kind and gentle stallion who would never hurt any pony, let alone eat them. Frankly, I'm ashamed of you all, and pity any pony who is unwilling to give him a chance." I stared at her, shocked and stunned into silence. The other 4 mares from Ponyville coming to her side and voiced their agreement. Cottontail galloped straight for me and leapt into my arms. I squeezed her tight to my chest and nuzzled her. Her parents trotted up to me too, but didn't leap at me. Cotton squirmed from my grip and climbed up onto my shoulders. "You're all a bunch of meanies!" Cotton yelled at the crowd. She then hugged my head, not held on so as to not fall, but actually hugged my head. It's quite possibly the cutest thing she's ever done. We began to walk again. Our group of 14 gained 4 more when Twilight's parents, Fancy Pants, and Fortis Lee all jumped up on stage and joined us. With Cotton still on my shoulder, I walked back in with literally all the ponies in the world who cared about me. "Well, Mom, looks like you were right." We were all in the throne room and the atmosphere was very low. Even Pinkie Pie was quiet. I never should have left the building. I won't be making that mistake again. Celestia put down the cake she was angrily devouring and wrapped her wings tightly around me. As she nuzzled me, she told me, "Don't think about them, honey. They don't know what they're missing out on. I'm only sorry my own ponies acted so thick-headed. It's not your fault, Mom. I hugged her close before we let go of each other. I flopped down onto Celestia's throne and ran my hand through one of the water pools. I had never felt so defeated. Cottontail climbed up in my lap and snuggled against my chest. That little filly always knew how to cheer me up, and I held her like a teddy bear. Right now, I just wanted my world to be smaller. About the size of the throne room would be good. A guard's pony approached the throne. It looked like he really didn't want to be doing this right now. Your Highness, there are some ponies outside who wish to speak with you. I have nothing I want to say to any pony outside this room! Did you misunderstand my orders, or did you simply choose to ignore me? Celestia seemed to be trying to kill the guard and whoever was on the other side of the massive doors, with her voice alone. Apologies, Princess. It's not you they wish to see. I swear, if this poor guy wasn't so well trained for high-stress situations, he would have had to fetch a maid to clean the floor, too. They wish to see the prince. All eyes were solely on me. I'll leave the choice to you, sweetheart, Celestia said. How many ponies are there? Around a dozen, Your Majesty. Fine. Send them in. The guard bowed and galloped off as fast as he possibly could. I didn't need to see his face to tell how relieved he was to be able to go anywhere else but near four of the most powerful creatures on the planet, who were as angry as any pony I'd ever seen a pony be. In fact, he was galloping so fast he slammed into the door before it could be opened. When it finally was opened, there was indeed a dozen ponies waiting to enter. I even recognized one of them as Mayor Scribble. Yes, Canterlot has a mayor. Celestia and Luna can't worry about the day-to-day minutiae of a city and the bigger problems of an entire country, plus the safety of the whole planet. They would never be able to get any sleep. Scribble was doing his best to remain calm and doing a convincing job of being placid. Not an easy thing to do under the circumstances. Those being Luna and Celestia standing beside me, Twilight shining in Cadence directly in front of me, and all the others lined up before them. Cotton was still in my arms. Prince Christopher, these ponies and myself wish to apologize for our actions. We were out of line. I would like to try this whole thing again. I stepped forward, weaving through the ponies who had placed themselves before me as a living shield. As I passed Ironhammer, I placed his daughter on his back. I had a feeling whatever would come of this would be the best I could hope for. If you think you can stand being in the same room as a monster, I snarked, I would very much like the opportunity to speak with you all. We all sat and talked for well over an hour, except for Fancy Pants and Fleur, since they couldn't leave their store closed all day. I explained as much as I could about my species and mentally complimented him on how well he handled the whole omnivorous thing. The other 11 ponies all cringed, but if ever so slightly. He told me about his family and about his political career. On a normal day, with normal ponies involved in the dialogue, this would have been insanely boring. But I was one of a kind creature, and he was the first political figure outside the family that I got to speak with. The others were still a little too nervous for conversation, but I did get a chance to speak to them all. All in all, I considered it a success. He even agreed to run damage control with the press over this morning. I walked up to the guards outside Blueblood's chambers. It was very late at night, and only the guards, Luna, and a few key staff members needed for the orderly running of the palace were still awake. Hey guys, why don't you head down to the kitchen and get something to eat? I think there are still a couple of Pinky's cupcakes left over. They looked at each other and grinned. They knew what was coming. Just remember, you never saw me. In fact, I ordered you to, if asked, said that you were here all night and you don't know how I got in. Yes, sir. They both trotted off, speculating as to just what I had planned. After 15 minutes, I was done. There were lovely designs and notes scribbled in his fur, and a lovely shade of green in his mane, brown streaks in his tail, and with a satisfied smile on my face, of the note on the mirror in his washroom. It read, Blueblood, next time, try disguising your voice. Love, Chris. And that was how I was introduced to the world.